if you think about cultures that are broad and deep and rich, there are a few cultures like Mexican culture that are that way. So there's so much to be inspired by. It's no surprise.
He also said that Bogota was the city that most impressed him and influenced him. And I never been to Bogota, only the airport. But Mexico City is also
Very similar.
very similar for pictures.
Culture,
Yeah.
gastronomy. You know, Bogota was at one point known as the Athens of South America.
Right.
Okay, back to you, Michael. You got your inspiration to become an artist watching your father paint and do some art at your basement, right? Like,
I think so.
So, do you relate some of the characters of 100 Years of Solitude with your father, with yourself? Which are the ones that you think will relate closer to your life or to your personality?
Well, all I know is my dad used to like to tell the story about when he was at work, I would come in and change his oil paintings. And I remember doing it, and sometimes these things stick, I guess. But I know I ruined a couple of his oil paintings, and he was really good about it. And so I think that's kind of how I got my. And another thing my dad did, he would bring up his paintings from the basement, and not very often. This one time I caught him. I came home early, and I went to the living room, and there he was sitting in the corner grinning, and he had this smile on his face. And I looked around there, and he had lined all his paintings all around the walls on the floor. And he was just sitting there and admiring them, and he got such a thrill out of that. I think that did something to me. It stuck. It's just, even though it wasn't good at anything, you know. But I felt maybe art was the answer, and didn't have art in high school, but was lucky enough to find a commercial art school in Salina, and there, even though I was way behind all the other students, the one instructor says, moving on to the second year, he says, you know, you had a slow start, but there's something about you that I think, you know, you've got this certain something, you know. So I felt, so that, you know, and art itself, it's like probably about anything, you need encouragement. You need little things along the way to keep you going. And that was some of that, but it's not really answering your question about transforming into, or translating into the paintings out here, right?
Well, just if you have some specific character of the entire novel that you are more like similar to that character, or that you think your family relates to that character particularly.
Oh, I see.
Or you see your paternal figure on any of the characters as Manuel Buendia or any other that might be in the novel.
Yeah, you know, I think my dad was such a big influence in my life, and a lot of times I use his, maybe not caricature, but his, I guess it's sort of his caricature. You know, he was tall and elongated, like, I guess like I used to be.
Still.
And so I use him sometimes as, you know, when I'm doing these models, or when I'm doing like these illustrations or my regular paintings, I really don't use models. You know, I really don't use models specifically, but once in a while I will. Like my wife Vicky posed for a few of the pictures in Macondo,
Okay.
and my son Ian posed for some things. And you know, at the time I used to ask him to pose, you know, and wasn't real crazy about it. But years later, I say, "I'm glad you posed. I'm glad you had me pose for that picture." And but so the regular figures and work, I pretty much wing or makeup, and sometimes there are people. Sometimes a few figures look like me, and or people I know. So that's kind of how that, how I do it anyway.
Okay. Thank you. Thank
I'm
you.
a little lazy, so that's how I do it.
Okay, we're gonna, before opening the microphone for people to ask questions to you, do you have any question for each other that you want to ask?
No, don't do it.
Okay.
Don't do it.
We're gonna take some questions, anyone? Okay, Sean, Gustavo, and Bacter. So I don't know, I'm Fred, of course. So
Michael?
if you need a
Yes.
microphone, you can stand
No,
up.
I'm okay.
Okay.
Michael, thank you so much for your amazing work. And I want to ask you this. There has been so many amazing writers all over the world. Is there any specific reason why you choose Gabriel Garcia Marquez to express your talent and use in those art pictures?
Well, basically, we were talking about the magic realism before that, and I just love that. It really leaves the lets the imagination go, in terms of humorous things or interesting things in the picture. And so that's why I found it so, a good novel to work from.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sí, quiero decirlo.
My question to you is, I don't know how you did, and when you see the pictures and you're from Colombia, you see the gentleman has to be in Macondo, some place of the Caribbean, because the colors, the way how you put those colors, the way how you make me feel, and I'm very sure that most of the Colombians, we feel like in the Caribbean coast, and the colors and the expression of you can see what is going on in what particular chapter of the book you are, how you did to put that expression in the pictures.
The colors, say the daytime pictures, I usually use a lot of warm tones, and kind of spread that throughout. It gives it kind of an antique-y look, or in the past, and it gives it that warm tone throughout. And I think that's probably part of it, because I know the sun is really strong down there, and so that was fairly easy to do. Now, part of the pictures are evening pictures, which that probably looks the same wherever you are. And so that's kind of how that worked. And so I think the last three were evening scenes, but I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate
You're welcome.
At the back, please. Yeah.
When you read the book, was it in Spanish or English?
It was
never heard of the guy.
No, it was in English. Thank goodness. I wouldn't have got very far with it in Spanish,
Fred,
What
you got a
I think is
question as well?
amazing, I'm sorry, what I think is amazing is that he's never been in Colombia.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah, he's never been in Colombia,
That's
so
what I say.
all those paintings are related to what he thought.
Yes.
When you were reading or listening to the audio, that's what you imagine, and that's the
Yeah.
amazing thing. I think it's the most,
For those
It gives you so much
who haven't read the book,
information.
Macondo doesn't
Yeah.
exist. It's not a physical place. That's why I asked him
Imaginary place.
if he visited Macondo. It was a
But he went
tricky
there.
question.
In my
Fred,
mind.
you had a question.
Yeah, I just have a question. Marquez said that his grandmother was a source of a lot of the stories that ended up in the novel. I've always been intrigued by the figure of Ursula in the novel, who's the grandmother. Would you say something about her role and the role of the women?
Yeah, you're right. He grew up with his maternal grandparents, his grandma and his grandpa in Aracataca. And his inspiration comes from his grandma telling him stories.
Thank you.
But also from his grandpa, that he was coronel, and the Coronel Aureliano Buendia is inspired by his grandpa. And the Ursula definitely is, to me, is the grandma. And is the one that keeps the family together and keeps the traditions and keeps the order in the house, like his grandma did with him. He had 11 brothers and sisters, so that house that he describes in Macondo, when they make the renovations and everything, it's like his house in Aracataca when he is living with all these siblings. Yeah, definitely Ursula.
Actually, the name of the novel was going to be La Casa Grande, in reference to that house, right? But he changed the name, the title. And yeah, Ursula is fantastic, and everything starts coming down when she died. So,
And it's interesting.
spoiler alert. Sorry for those.
It is very interesting because they don't have to mention anything about the leadership of the feminine.
Yeah.
But it was right there. She was the one. And after her came the rest of the people, the 17
Yes, Aureliano.
kids that they have, and Aureliano, and even Mauricio Babilonia.
Someone else has questions? Sí, Gloria.
It's just a comment. It appears that
¿Quieres el
Macondo,
micrófono, perdón?
Oh.
Sí, creo que no.
it appears that Macondo was a favorite of Garcia Marquez because he uses that Macondo in many of his novels, like los funerales de la mamá grande, and el coronel no tiene quien le escriba, Hojarasca y otra más.
El otoño del patriarca.
En todos hay Macondo. Entonces es un lugar que a él, en su imaginación, era como un paraíso. Y tenía a lo mejor un poco de México y de Bogotá.
De Latinoamérica, como dijo.
Exacto. Gracias. Muchas gracias.
Yeah.
I was going to say what she said. I don't have a question but a comment. I'm Colombian and I'm super proud of hearing you both from different countries talking about this person that remembers how Colombia is, who Colombia is, how our people is. And it is impressive just to see you laugh, how you talk about his art, his work, and then all this incredible work you did with your hands, incredible, about my country and about him and all his imagination. And I love what she said because it's true. He found in Mexico Macondo, so he ended there to expose more art for the world until he died. So I'm happy for everything you guys have been done for Garcia and for my country, and just thank you for this generation. For real.
With that note, I think we can end this part of the evening. Thank you again to the Colombian Cultural Association for everything you've done, for the idea of having this event tonight. To all of you, Orlando, Sean, Gustavo, to my staff again, Alan, Consul Soberanes, everyone that helped us tonight, Lulu, Benjamin, they are fantastic. And we want you to keep enjoying Michael's work. Of course, thank you very much to him, to Fred for lending us the works of art. We will keep them here in good condition, I promise. Don't bring the wine close to the works of art, please.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Duncan, for everything that you said tonight, and thank you all. And let's go for some Colombian empanadas. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Colombian empanadas.